If you've ever listened to Information Please on the air, you know that it's unprepared and and that's the way we're going to run it right now. Here's the layout. I fire questions that they've never seen or heard before at a quartet of authorities. If an expert thinks he knows the answer to a question, he raises his right hand. When a question is muffed, we ring a cash register, which means that Pathé is contributing $25 to the Will Rogers Memorial Fund. Let's see how well they make out. The little bits of pantomime that you're about to see suggest the titles of popular songs. You're to name the songs. Here's the first one. Mr. Adams.
Hi-ho.
Right. Hi-ho. Now, this gets a little harder. That's all there is to this. There isn't any more. Mr. Adams?
I didn't know what time it was.
Oh, yeah. Well, I can't imagine anything less apt than that.
They're not going.
No.
Mr. Levant?
The song of the metronome.
No.
No, I think not. Mr. Kieran?
Time on my hand.
Time on my hand. Yes, I think that would be the right one. All right, let's have the last of these. Oh, this is going to be a good one. How long do you boys want to look at this?
That's illicit.
Don't anybody answer.
Mr. Wilkie?
No, I can't answer.
Kieran?
I don't want anybody else to answer.
Oh, you great, big, beautiful doll.
Mr. Levant?
You must have been a beautiful baby.
That would be a good one. Or, yes, sir, she's my baby, either one.
How about my doll?
Well, now, that's not a doll.
How about
That's
my
a real
baby
live
doll?
girl, Mr. Kieran. You ought to be able to distinguish them by this time.
Some people would still call her a doll.
Some people still call her a baby.
I got it.
Mr. Levant?
Lazy bones.
Oh. What king wore high-heeled shoes to add to his stature? What king wore high shoes to Mr. Wilkie?
Louis the 14th.
Louis the 14th, yes. Do you know how tall he was, Mr. Wilkie, by any chance?
No, but I think about 5'4" or 5.
Well, that would not be very short, as a matter of fact, in France. Their average stature is somewhat less than our stature here.
He may have been some shorter than
I
that,
imagine
but he
he
was
was
shorter
shorter
than
than
most of his courtiers, and he was a very vain man, and he wanted to show that he could be as tall as they, so he wore high-heeled shoes.
That's exactly right, Mr. Wilkie. Mr. Levant?
The usual standard rule is if you're tall enough to play opposite Norma Shearer, because she's played opposite many Louis the 14th.
Oh, but how unlucky for him that he couldn't play opposite her, Mr. Levant.
Well, he did pretty well in his time.
Yes, he did. For his day, he did all right. What king was a locksmith? The king was a locksmith, Mr. Kieran.
Louis the 16th, who unfortunately lost his head one day completely.
Yes, he did. We're going to show you some live animals that suggest certain works of literature. And we want you to give the name of the book or story that each suggests. All right, let's see the first. And what work of literature does this one suggest? Oh, we have two hands. Mr. Kieran.
I should say that would be Treasure Island.
Why would you say that,
Because
Mr.
the
Kieran?
parrot is in there.
Yes, there's a parrot in Treasure
Parrot
Island.
Captain Flint.
That's right. Captain Flint is the name of that parrot, and presumably of this one, Mr.
That one of the Pirates of Penzance?
No, not the same family.
Polly with a pass.
Beg pardon?
Polly with a pass.
Hollywood. Oh, that's a peach, Mr. Levant. Thank you. Now let's have the next. Do you all see what this animal is? Now, what literary work is suggested by that animal? Mr. Levant?
Darwin's theory of evolution.
I think it might do perfectly well, Mr. Levant. The one, Mr. Kieran?
Well, that might be the Swiss Family Robinson, because the boy Jack has a monkey that he trained to ride on his shoulder. And that's a South American monkey, by the way, I believe.
How can you tell?
Has a long tail.
Now, would you mind removing this simian? How about another? See what you can do with this one. That was easy, by the way. This one's much harder. See if you can find Mr. Levant's dog. Mr. Levant, you seem sure of yourself.
I'd frighten those dogs. That's the bloodhounds in Uncle Tom's cabin.
I don't know whether the exact same one, but bloodhounds are used in Uncle Tom's cabin. That's quite right. Did you have another answer, any of you, Mr.
How about
Wilkie?
the hound of Baskerville?
Yes, that would be a good one. I don't know whether there were bloodhounds or not in the hounds of the
I
Baskerville.
don't think they were
by Conan
defined.
Doyle.
They were just hounds.
Just hounds. In the next question, you are to name the places that have been described by writers as follows. Loveliest village of the plain. What place is that? 1, 2, 3 hands. Mr. Adams.
Sweet Auburn,
Sweet Auburn, to be found where?
in the deserted village,
Yes, by whom?
by Mr. Goldsmith.
Yes, first name.
Oliver.
We get it all out of him sooner or later, yes. Now, how about Baghdad on the subway? 1, 2, 3. Oh, Mr. Wilkie, you look so eager. Mr. Wilkie?
Oh, Henry.
Oh, Henry, yes. In what book?
Well, that's a series of stories, isn't it?
What is the name of the city that's described?
Oh, New York.
New York, of course. And it's described in O. Henry's 4 million.
4 million.
4 million.
The 4 million, a collection of stories. Is that right, Mr. Adams? You're an old O. Henry expert. Here's another. Through the sycamores, the candle lights are gleaming. Mr. Adams?
That is the Wabash in Mr. Wilkie's.
We're going to show you pictures of some presidential cabinets in which the face of the president has been covered. After looking at each cabinet, I want you to give me the name of the president. Let's bring in the first. Now here you have the cabinet. Who was president? Mr. Wilkie.
Lincoln.
Lincoln is right, yes. Now let's have the second. There's the cabinet. Who was the president? Mr. Kieran?
That is Theodore Roosevelt, I think.
Theodore Roosevelt is correct. That is Theodore Roosevelt's cabinet. And the third and last. Mr. Levant.
Wilson.
No, I'm
Right after
sorry.
Wilson.
Coolidge. Coolidge is right. Came a little too late, Mr. Wilkie. Thank you. That'll lose
I
us
said
$25.
right after Wilson. I said Wilson right after Wilson.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I was wrong.
You meant Wilson, though, all the same. Calvin Coolidge is correct. Now I want you to give me some expressions which place men in some unusual locations. As an example, up a tree. Can you give me 4 other expressions which similarly place men or people in unusual positions? Mr. Kieran had his hand up first.
I'm out on a limb.
Out on a limb is a very good one. Took it right away from you, Mr. Levant.
Worked hard on that one.
Better retire. Mr.
I
Wilson?
have my neck out.
Stuck your neck out. Yes, very good. That gives us 2.
Is that autobiography?
Of my opposition.
I've got to admit that Mr. Wilkie hasn't stuck his neck out on this show so far.
Stuck your chin out, isn't it?
No, to put your neck out is a correct expression. Mr. Adams?
An old slang about being in the soup.
In the soup is perfectly all right, Mr. Adams. Very good. Gives us 3. Mr. Kieran?
I was knocked into a cocked hat.
Knocked into a cocked hat's a pretty one. Or to be beside it, which often puts you in rather bad company, would be another one. How about in a pickle, which is the same as in the soup? Or up in the air would be still another. We're going to show you some objects, each of which represents a term used in baseball. And you are to give the term suggested by each. All right? Here's the first. Now look at it carefully. It is, gentlemen, what?
Corn.
It's a can of corn. What's the baseball term represented by a can of corn? Mr. Kieran?
The succotash ball.
I don't know what that is.
Succotash ball is a bean ball thrown at a batter's corns.
A bean ball thrown at a batter. Did you just make that up, Mr. Kieran?
That's in the
According to my-
vegetable league.
What did you say, Mr. Adams?
That's in the vegetable league.
It's not corn that way. No.
No, I
That's
don't.
a gopher, they call it.
I think that a can of corn, at least according to my information, is an easy fly to the outfield. You ever hear the expression?
Never.
Mr.
Never,
Kieran?
never.
Well, you've heard it now, and that's going to cost us $25. May we see one more, please? Now, what is the young lady showing you, gentlemen? Mr. Levant?
Shoestring,
what-
shoestring catch.
Yes, what sort of catch is
It's
that?
usually a low-line drive, which the outfielder charges in and catches about right on the level of his shoe tops.
That's right.
Usually dives a somersault afterwards, and everybody applauds, and then he drops the ball. Not always.
Gentlemen, that's about all the information we can hold. Suppose we call it a day.